Why are there so many shows starring Muppets and dozens of movies too? They said they'd watch everyone and they mean it. It's something that they've got to do. So now they pledge you a lifelong commitment. The Muppets, Matthew and Sam.
Welcome to Commitment, the podcast where two friends have vowed to watch all things Muppets. I'm Matthew Gatos.
And I'm Sam Schultz. I thought for a second you weren't going to say it. Seemed like you weren't going to.
Wasn't going to say my name?
Yeah.
Just going to wait
We're
and let you?
changing things up.
Yeah.
Episode 102, we're switching it up.
This time, Sam goes first.
Yeah.
You want to let's try that real fast and see how it feels for you,
Yeah.
all right? So I'm going to say the first line, and then
Okay.
you're going to introduce yourself first.
Okay.
Welcome to Commitment, the podcast where two friends have vowed to watch all things Muppets.
I'm Sam Schultz.
And I'm Matthew Gatos.
That was horrid.
It sounded weird.
It's a bad.
It's like saying Ernie and Bert. It's like, I don't like it.
It's a bad alternate dimension we've stumbled into.
Well, let's quickly jump out of that because we are headed into the summer of 1984 this week as we head towards the premiere of the Muppets Take Manhattan.
I like when we're in the same season in 1984 as we are in the real world, you know?
Yeah, it's nice. We are taking a slight detour right now because we will have to go back and finish up Fraggle Rock Season 2 in a couple of weeks. So we'll head back into spring a little bit. But for now, we're like right along there. We kind of, we can understand what it's like to live in summer.
Yeah. I can picture myself in 1984. I have day glow on, maybe. I'm listening to Duran Duran. And I'm watching the Today Show. And it's warm out. That's the important part.
Yes. Mostly it's just warm out.
Yeah.
We are not actually, though, discussing the Muppets Take Manhattan today because it turns out the Muppets did a lot of TV appearances to hype up the release of this movie. And we didn't want to cram all of that discussion into one episode. So this week we are discussing the lead up to the Muppets Take Manhattan by way of the Muppets appearing on a bunch of shows like The Today Show, The Tonight Show, Good Morning America, Merv Griffin, and more.
Great grab bag episode. I love a grab bag episode.
Yeah, it's an interesting grab bag episode too because I think some of these shows are wildly different, but a lot of the things they say are exactly the same.
Suspiciously similar.
Yeah.
Man, it's going to be my first time watching Muppets Take Manhattan.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that after we've watched all of this hype. Are you feeling hyped?
Yeah, because all the reviews were like, this is the best one of all three of them, which is something I feel like is going to be true for me at least. And I'm like, when they show clips, I'm like, I've never seen this clip in my fucking life. I know literally nothing about this movie. I've seen the Peoples is Peoples clip, and I've heard the song that they play over and over again on that commercial for Airbnb.
Yes.
And that's all I know about it. And then, like, there were, like, some things, like, when the Muppet Babies are singing, I was like, so that's why the Muppet Babies are doo-wop. That's why it's all doo-wop, because that's the song they sing in the movie. Is like a doo-wop song. Everything's kind of fallen into place, you know? Where do you even watch it? Isn't this one that Disney doesn't own somehow?
Yeah, so I think it's Sony or somebody currently has the rights to this one, so that is a bit of a bummer that it's not as easy to watch as most of the other Muppet movies are. But you can rent it on Apple TV Plus, YouTube, all those places for like $4 to watch it. It is not available anywhere right now to stream for free, like with an account. So it's not on Netflix or Disney Plus or Hulu or any of those things. But so you'll have to rent it digitally or purchase the Blu-ray, DVD, whatever from somewhere.
It's a Muppet movie they don't want you to see.
But yeah, what do you expect now that you've seen a bit of the movie here and there? You've seen some clips now. What are you expecting going in?
I feel like I knew before, and now I don't know.
Oh.
Because, like, they cut out so many of the clips. So, like, there's some I haven't even seen. Like, I don't know what Kermit's up to with that lady on the bench when Miss Piggy's so mad.
Yeah, they talk about a few of these things we watched were, like the Merv Griffin one, for instance, is a full episode of the Merv Griffin show on Tubi that's actually, like, officially released. And so they cut out the parts that would be copyright issues, like some songs and the actual clips of the movie. So there's times when they'll throw to a clip and it'll fade to black and you'll come back and they're like, oh, that was so great.
Great clip. Yeah. It's like, you fucking with me, Murph? What's going on here? I'm expecting something a little bit, now this is just a guess, something with a little bit more narrative coherence than the other ones that we've seen so far, with a more of a solid through line. And I think it's going to be weird to see them being characters to such an extent that it seems like they're going to be characters, like people who've known each other since college, kind of like, it seems like so concrete compared to Great Muppet Caper and the Muppet Movie, and even like the Muppet Show. It's like a background for these guys, which is unusual in my opinion. I think it'll be less madcap than Great Muppet Caper. I think it will be a little meandering sometimes, because I didn't find that scene in the makeup thing particularly funny.
Right.
And that makes me a little concerned. I did think it was interesting that Joan Rivers was drawing on Miss Piggy. I thought that was pretty cool.
Well, and the story that's been told now recently on Tough Pigs when Frank Oz was on there was that he and Joan Rivers went out and had a couple gin and tonics to loosen themselves up for that scene because they were trying to make it good and just couldn't get the funny out of it. They couldn't find it funny. And so they went and got a little tipsy and came back and were like, all right, let's do this.
Okay, maybe I could pick up that energy a little bit. Like something that two drunk people think is more funny than the people watching it think.
Yes, because there's a moment specifically in that clip that I'm sure we'll talk about a lot more next week when we're talking about the movie. But when Joan Rivers says something like, oh, we have to do your eyebrows, Piggy says, like, pigs don't have eyebrows, or like, what are you doing? Pigs don't have eyebrows, or something like that. And the way it's said feels a little bit like Frank is slightly slipping out of character and a little bit more of like Frank is surprised at what's about to happen, but also kind of has to roll with it.
So is she not supposed to draw on Miss Piggy?
I have no idea. But I think she was supposed to draw on Miss Piggy, but maybe the plan for what she was going to draw and how, or how much makeup and where she was going to put it, was maybe not as sketched out
a little bit as it started.
But I think it might be my favorite of the original three Muppet movies. I have seen it quite a few times, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you think of it. All right, Sam. Well, we might as well get into talking about this actual hype for the Muppets Take Manhattan that they were trying to get the world hyped up back in the summer of 1984. So how about you tell me and the people at home what we watched this week?
The first thing we watched is a clip from the TV special An Olympic Gala, which was celebrating the 1984 Summer Olympics in Los Angeles and aired on ABC in July of 1984. In the clip, Kermit is running with the Olympic torch and singing It's Not Where You Start, which is a song that Rolf also sang on The Muppet Show a few years back when he had to like sing it really fast because Scooter was like, hey, you gotta hurry up, bro. Next, we watched a segment from The Today Show airing July 10th, 1984, in which the show's film critic Gene Shalit interviews Jim about the upcoming Muppets Take Manhattan, which he thinks is a bright spot in a, quote, terrible summer of movies. More on that later. Jim mentions that it's his 30th anniversary in the entertainment industry and that he started on the same network as The Today Show's Willard Scott. What was that network again? Do you know?
No, it was the one in D.C. where they did Sam and Friends.
Right. But yeah, I guess Willard was there, which I feel like I knew at some point.
We talked about that briefly at one point. I think it was
Bozo maybe even back then or something.
I don't know if that was an overlap time, but I think we talked about that maybe after reading the Sam and Friends book, because I believe they mentioned the Willard Scott connection in that. But yeah, it's briefly touched on, and Gene Shalit could not give less of a shit about the fact that those two know each other. No, I feel like Gene was like,
what the fuck? And Gene is just sitting there like, he's like, and the man who just laid that bombshell on us. I feel like Gene's mind is blown. He's like...
But also is like, Willard, this isn't your spot. This is my
That's
time.
True.
Get out of here.
That's true. Then we get our first mention of a Muppet Rock video, which we don't get to see in this clip, but this video will be mentioned several more times, kind of almost like a threat in a way. The second half of that clip, I think, aired the next day, from what Gene said. on the Today Show also, and features Gene talking to Kermit about the movie and his relationship with Miss Piggy, almost to the point where Jim seems to get like genuinely frustrated with the line of questioning, and he ends up asking Gene how his sex life is, which summons a lot of uncomfortable thoughts involving big, bushy mustaches. Next up, July 12th, 1984, Piggy appeared on Good Morning America to pump the Muppets Take Manhattan and talk more openly about her relationship with Kermit and their on-screen but possibly real marriage. There are a couple of good wig jokes, toupee jokes, but overall this is pretty much just a like, how are you and Kermit over and over again snooze fest in my opinion. Then that night, Piggy went on The Tonight Show, thankfully answering way less marriage questions and being overall delightful and bonkers as she flirts with Johnny, who at one point starts talking about her breasts and then asks her if she'd do full frontal nudity. So I think we can safely add another person to the list of humans who are horny for Miss Piggy. She signs off her appearance by singing My Funny Valentine to Johnny. Next, we watched the July 19th, 1984 episode of The Merv Griffin Show, which was dedicated to the Muppets Take Manhattan. Merv sits down with Piggy and Kermit to discuss the movie and their relationship. And then this is when Miss Piggy reveals kind of for the first time, it seems like, that she had hired a real minister for the final scene of Muppets Take Manhattan. I still think it's so weird that they keep showing the ending of the movie. I don't know if it actually is the ending of the movie, but it's just like, here's the ending of the movie.
You'll have to wait and find out next week, Sam.
Yeah. Well, so that conversation devolves into chaos. Then he talks to Jim and Frank about their pasts, which is pretty interesting. And we get another mention, and I think they watched the Muppet Rock video as well, though we still don't get to see it. Still haunting us. Merv interviews Dabney Coleman, who plays the villain of the movie, and Dabney says a bunch of super nice stuff about the Muppets. It was kind of choking me up a little bit because he was just like, these are the best actors I've ever worked with in my whole life. And then there are a couple of small skits throughout featuring Fozzie and Animal and Rolf. And then Kermit and Piggy come out and sing a little number as the show signs off. It's just sort of a nice, pleasant time with the Muppets. Kind of an old school appearance by them. And Merv Griffin is the name that you hear a lot, or at least I hear a lot. But I was never really super clear on who he was. And it turns out he was like a lot of stuff. He started out as a big band leader in the 40s, then he had a short stint as a movie star, and then he became a talk show host. Ultimately, he created the Merv Griffin Show in 1965, but the reason you hear his name a lot is because he invented Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune in the 60s, and I think both of those still say, this is a Merv Griffin production at the end. So that's kind of just burned into my brain. Very prolific guy, though.
There's also the whole episode of Seinfeld where Kramer gets the old Merv Griffin Show set and puts it in his apartment and has people over. So yes, I think Merv Griffin has almost seemed like a fictional character at times to me because of how he is always referenced, and I had never watched him speak.
Yeah, I don't think I'd ever even really seen his face before.
No, that man was not recognizable to me at all.
No, but if we had lived in the 80s, we would have known exactly who he was. I feel like that episode of Seinfeld would have been way funnier. I mean, it's a great episode of Seinfeld, but anyway.
Yeah, as a kid, not knowing who Merv Griffin is, you're like,
yeah.
Okay, I get it, kind of.
Yeah. Then we watched a commercial for Pampers, sort of starring the Muppet Babies, but actually starring the Muppet Newsman, and what I think is his finest role of all time. He does a classic Muppet commercial where bad things keep happening to him while he's talking about the Muppet Babies and how they're taking America by storm, which I don't think they probably had yet, but they definitely would. So Jim really called a shot with the dang Muppet Babies. How did he know that they were going to be so hot?
I mean, they were already...
He just saw them and was like, these guys are fucking cute.
Well, and when you're planning to launch an animated series in the fall, you're probably also just going to tell America, hey, these Muppet Babies are taking America by storm.
That's true.
Watch them, please. So it's a little bit of calling your own shot of if we tell people that they're really popular, people will believe us. Because the internet doesn't exist. And so we can just say anything we want.
Yeah, I'm sure there was a moment when Jim walked into the room and saw the Muppet Babies and huge dollar signs flashed in his eyes. And he was like, this is it. Here we go. Next is time for the long-promised Muppet Rock video itself. Actually, a music video for the song I'm Always Gonna Love You from Muppets Take Manhattan, sung by Baby Piggy. And it's something else. Jim got his hands on a video toaster and he pushed every button on the video toaster. And I'm sure we'll talk about it a lot. But at one point, Jim appears in a cameo wearing a tuxedo and frog flippers and he punches a window out. And Kermit and Piggy are played by an actual frog and pig for a few scenes. And it's disgusting because there's pig shit on the floor.
It's the most 80s thing the Muppets have ever done so far.
I think it will be the most 80s thing they ever do, probably.
One would have to imagine that you couldn't get
I would hope
more
so.
80s than this.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. But they like show it during the Merv Griffin show, and when it cuts back, I feel like Frank is sitting there like, the fuck? Like, I feel like it's pretty clear Jim just like did this himself. Like he just went in the basement and was like, wow, look what this thing can do. And everybody was like, are you really going to show that? You're going to bring that around and show it on everything we go on?
Well, it's interesting too, though, because the set reminds me a little bit of the Jim Henson Hour set.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like those two are sort of kindred spirits, this music video and the eventual look and feel of the Jim Henson Hour. So
The set being the kind of abstract play place that they're in.
Yeah.
It's kind of dreamy and cloudy and pink or something like
Yeah.
that. Right. That I can see that in my head. Finally, we warp all the way to December 12th, 1984, around the time that the Muppets Take Manhattan is opening in Australia, to see Piggy appear on the Australian talk show Sounds, hosted by Australian DJ Donnie Sutherland. Not Donald Sutherland. Donnie Sutherland.
different man.
They talk, different guy. They talk about Joan Rivers and Piggy's future as a star of stage and screen, and all the normal junk. But Donnie and Piggy have like a really fun chemistry, I feel like. I'm glad Frank flew all the way to Australia to be on this show for 30 seconds. So back to Gene Shalit saying that 1984 was a terrible summer for movies. Temple of Doom, The Karate Kid, Ghostbusters, and Gremlins had all come out like the month before he said that. So it's sounds like a pretty good summer to me.
It's very interesting that he was so big on like that this is a violent action-filled summer when like
Yeah.
I guess like Temple of Doom is violent, like they rip a heart out of a chest, but
Yeah.
is Karate Kid his violence?
I feel like Karate Kid is all about how violence is bad.
right, and Ghostbusters is not violent, so I don't really know what he was so upset about. Those are
Like Gremlins. Well, okay, so Gremlins actually, that kind of makes sense because that was the movie that started PG-13.
I
So-
thought Temple of Doom was,
And so did Temple of Doom.
Yeah.
They both did. So, okay,
This was
like
the
an
summer
infamous time
where
that
people
I'm
were like,
thinking about it.
PG movies should have another number after them because PG is not enough.
Right.
Okay, so maybe
This
that's.
is,
I bet Gene Shalit was like a big proponent then of the PG-13.
Yeah, there must have been. There was like a big dust up around now. There must have been where kids were going to Temple of Doom, watching a guy's heart get ripped out, and then going to Gremlins and watching the Futtermans or whatever their names are get run over by their big tractor, and being scarred for life. But also that summer, Red Hot Chili Peppers released their first album, which sounds extremely wrong, but is true. 1984? They formed in 1982. That's so crazy.
They're real old.
They're real old, but that just doesn't sound like 80s music, you know?
No, that is true. Yes, they feel very 1992 to me.
Yeah. Bruce Springsteen's Born in the USA and Prince's Purple Rain are both released. The MTV Video Music Awards begin, and I think the WWF began airing like on cable. What's Black Friday? Or Black something?
I don't really know what you're talking about.
On Wikipedia, Black Saturday refers to Saturday, July 14th, 1984, the day when Vince McMahon's World Wrestling Federation took over the time slot on Superstation that had been home to Georgia Championship Wrestling.
Right. So this is sort of the declaration of war from WWF. Before this, and I'm sure my timelines are a little off here, but wrestling was a very territory-based system. So you had like certain wrestling was shown in the South, certain wrestling was shown out West, certain wrestling was shown in the Northeast. And this was Vince McMahon sort of being like, hey, screw the territories, I'm coming for the nation.
This is the this is like the NBA for wrestling.
Right. And there was sort of like a respect amongst territories that like you didn't really mess with the territories before this. And so eventually Vince McMahon would go on to essentially buy up all the territories and the companies and all this stuff. But I think this is sort of that first shot across the bow of like, hey, we're coming for you.
They put a nationally syndicated show in a place where it had been like Georgia wrestling.
I believe so. I believe that's what is happening during this time.
Okay. Well, yeah. So a lot of like interesting stuff happened. It was a good summer, Gene Shalit. Shut your mouth.
Well, yeah, elsewhere in the world of the Muppets in the summer of 1984, we've got on June 19th, 1984, Jim wrote in his journal, "Cruise screening Muppets Take Manhattan in London." So they wanted to show the London crew, the Creature Shop peoples, what was going on over there in New York. Then on June 26, 1984, he wrote, Frank and I do entire Merv Griffin show. So this is clearly when they recorded the Merv Griffin episode that you had talked about. The movie premiered on July 13th, and the show aired on July 19th, and they apparently filmed it all the way back on June 26th. This whole extensive promotional plan for this movie was apparently organized by Roberto Jimenez, who was Jim's head of public relations at the time. And along with the TV appearances, they also did things where they were on the packages for Cheerios, Fritos, Oral-B toothbrushes, and there was an exhibit in Central Park's Dairy building, I guess about Muppets Take Manhattan, just being like, hey, come see our movie. Here's some Muppets.
Yeah, it's about New York. You're in New York. Check it out.
Also, I couldn't immediately find any more information about this, but I'd be fascinated to know if there's any footage or pictures of this. It just said, as a selling tool, Henson licensing executives Isabel Miller and Bets Fitzgerald dressed up as English nannies pushing prams and filmed a promotional video in Central Park. So they dressed up as like English nannies pushing, like, I'm guessing maybe Muppet Babies around in prams in Central Park to be like, hey, want to see these things on a movie screen? But it also didn't mention specifically that they had the Muppet Babies in the pram. It just said that they dressed like English nannies pushing prams and filmed a promotional video.
You'd think the Muppet Baby part would be the most important part that they would definitely mention.
You'd think.
So they just were like walking around being like, this Muppets Take Manhattan. I've been hearing great things. I'm British also. I wonder how effective that was.
You got one person.
Some guerrilla marketing. Yeah.
One person walking by being like, what'd that English nanny say?
Excuse me?
In July, this is when Muppets Take Manhattan is opening on July 13th. Jim wrote about the opening. But then on July 16th, Jim wrote, Dream Child begins shooting.
Probably not Nightmare on Elm Street 4.
Not that one. Okay. This is
or 5.
One of those. One of the Dream Warriors, Dream Children, Dream Fighters.
5. The Dream Child.
Yeah, not that. This is a movie called Dream Child. This is a movie we will talk about in November that we'll be watching. It is the first non-Henson project at the Creature Shop. It seems like this was something that was done because they had finished Dark Crystal, Labyrinth was still a little ways off, and they wanted to keep everyone employed. So they were like, well, we got to do something with that London shop we made, so how about we hire out our services to somebody else? And so this film, it's the story of the friendship between Alice, the inspiration for Alice in Wonderland, and Lewis Carroll, essentially. It's like this fictionalized like thing, I believe, of like the story between those two. And it features a fantasy sequence with Henson created characters based on the books. And as designer Lyle Conway said, it turned out to be 1/4 the work of the Dark Crystal at 10 times the speed. We had 14 weeks to build everything, which is no time for us at all, and I think we stayed that much fresher as a result. So it seems like something they didn't hate doing, but it like they had to do it way faster.
Right. And this aired. It's like
this is a real movie. It's out there. We will watch it. We will talk about it in November. And yeah, it is something that is a bit visually upsetting, I would say, once you see these creatures.
Okay, I won't look them up.
Yeah, they are something else. And I know that because this was a cheaper project, in Brian J. Jones's biography, he also talks about how they weren't able to do like the full Yoda treatment as far as like mechanisms and robotics and all this stuff. So it was a little bit more puppetry based and a little bit more of like pulling some rods and strings to make things move around than full on animatronics. But yeah, that's what else is going on in the summer of 1984. Now it's time to talk about two things, Sam, as we talk through these TV appearances. Kermit and Piggy's relationship. And Piggy going to charm school. The only two things that anyone wants to talk about during this batch of things.
Oh, I think the charm school stuff is funny just because the pose is so funny.
Yeah, I liked it, and then it just kept happening. And I was like, okay, it's still happening. Again, nobody else was doing what we were doing and watching these back to back to back. So you're seeing these weeks apart, you probably don't mind as much. But when you're watching them back to back to back, and you hear Frank making the same jokes about Piggy's charm school days.
You know what? some people go on talk shows and they tell the same story over.
Yeah, I
and
don't like
over
that
again.
either.
It makes Miss Piggy more realistic, I think.
I guess so.
I think she comes out of this batch smelling like a rose.
Oh, yeah. She is truly the star here.
Yeah. She's got fantastic clothes.
Mhm.
She seems like an actual human being to the point where Johnny Carson's like, am I going to have sex with this pig?
Or also, did I have sex with her?
Yeah, he's like, can't remember.
Yeah,
Maybe
there's
that did happen.
implications that they may have already had sex. But first, we have something that's not really hyping up the Muppets Take Manhattan, but happened during this time in July 1984, and that is the Kermit appearance on the Olympic Gala. Something that we talked about previously was a little confusing, where Jim wrote in his journal that there was like a salute to the Olympics airing.
Right.
But
right.
all the searches for that will bring you to this, and so who the hell knows? Not us.
Maybe is it.
But we watched it, and we watched Kermit running and then singing and then carrying an actual lit flame.
Yeah, maybe one of the worst qualities of anything that we've watched also so
Yeah,
far.
sound quality especially. There's just this loud, high-pitched, like screeching VHS noise in the background the
classic
whole time.
VHS sound. Yeah.
But not much happens in this, and I feel like there was an opportunity to do a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
At the very, very end of this, Kermit is running while singing, and he gets to a large banner that is the starting line. So somehow he ended up back where he began.
Right.
And he has a large open flame that he is holding, and somehow they weren't like, what if we set that banner on fire?
They know what they're doing. They're pros at this point.
Well, right, but I thought, like, purposefully
Oh,
the sketch
you
would
thought he was
end
gonna
with
set
him
the
standing there
banner
like,
on
what the
fire.
heck? And then it would go,
I feel like a stipulation of making something about the Olympics is probably that you can't disrespect the torch in any way.
he blows it
you
out.
know? He does.
Yeah, at the very end of that,
Oh,
he
I missed-
blows it
I
out.
missed that.
And I don't think that's
Okay,
allowed.
Well, then never mind. Yeah.
I think they're pretty dead set on not letting that flame go out.
I don't know. I think it would have been cute if they had really had Kermit run a stretch with the torch, you know?
It seems a bit of an issue for
Or
Jim.
Sweetums or something.
Yeah, Sweetums
Yeah.
would make more sense. Jim, they'd have to like
Some
put him on a
big guy.
scooter or something, and just like somebody drives him on the back of a Vespa while he's like doing this.
People would love it.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying it shouldn't happen. I'm just saying it seems more complicated than just
Yeah.
a guy running down a street.
Yeah, this screamed like they asked us to do this, and we have 2 days to figure it out because it was just like a black background. Like they must have just like gone in the whatever like the carriage house studio
Right.
or whatever.
Feels
and
like
just
this.
was
The
like,
planning.
We'll sing a song we already know. Get a torch.
The
Yeah.
planning took as long as it took to make a banner and an outfit for Kermit.
Yeah.
That's how long this
Yeah.
took.
What would you have wanted to see?
I just.
A big salute to the Olympics. I think would have been fun.
Well, I just
they
think
could have had Louis Kazagger.
having
they
a
could have been
joke.
throwing stuff. That's true. Also,
it was just Kermit running and going, "Oh no, I'm here again." Which, like, also
Yeah, I
Kermit,
guess
most
that's
races kind of end where they started. Like,
That-
so
it's true. He's confused about the concept of how
yeah.
a race works. The Olympic torch thing doesn't, but I also don't think they have big signs that say "start" at the Olympic torch
No.
thing. I think you just keep going.
So yeah, I think all in all, it just felt a little bit like it could have been something more.
Mhm.
But I think you're right. It was probably just a, hey, can we have a Muppet in this? And they're like, yeah, we'll figure something
Right.
out.
Get Sam Eagle in there. He's like looking at old vases of them like wrestling naked, and he's like, unseemly. We're taking it back to America. We're gonna do good, wholesome things.
Well, getting into the actual hype for the Muppets Take Manhattan, we have the appearance on possibly July 10th and July 11th, or July 9th and July 10th. One of those days is July 10th. But there's 2 days back-to-back on the Today Show with Gene Shalit. But at the beginning is when Jim jumps in, talks about how it's 30 years ago that I started on TV, which he does mention multiple times throughout these appearances that he has. Gene Shalit, again, doesn't really care about this or Willard Scott at all, dives into his opinion on summer movies and says, finally, the kids will have something to watch, which is a little bit of a fascinating discussion, I would say. They discuss the Muppets being for both adults and children, talks about the summer being full of violent movies, and clarifies that the Muppets Take Manhattan is not a violent movie.
Not violent. Yeah.
But then he asks Jim what Jim thinks about violence in movies. He's talking about the G rating specifically, and talks about how our movie is rated G. And a lot of people talk about G ratings being negative, but we like it because it's things for the whole family. There's no violence or sex, but it's still entertaining. This is a man who made a special called Sex and Violence, talking about how I don't think you need violence and sex to be entertaining. And he's also a man who has blown up many, many things and many, many characters.
Yeah.
And throughout the rest of this batch, we will see the very sexy Miss Piggy flirting and talking about sex with everyone.
Yeah. She's got her cleavage out and she karate chops people. So she is sex and violence combined.
Yes. And so it's just a little ironic to have Jim Henson talking about the fact that, like, he doesn't necessarily say sex and violence is bad, but he's kind of saying, I don't think you need violence or sex to be entertaining. And I'm like, sir.
I suppose in our culture, it's like there's just like that background radiation of sexiness and violence that you don't even notice, probably, is what Miss Piggy is. She's just the base level for existing in the world, maybe, not even just America.
Yeah, I guess no one's getting their, like, anatomically correct heart ripped out of their chest in Muppets Take Manhattan. Spoiler alert, Sam.
I don't know.
Yeah.
They're not. Okay, that does
happen. Not happen.
Yeah. I think his point about being like, oh, it's sad that G movies are seen as for just children is kind of it's like an interesting point. It is really, it's like a death sentence, I think, in some respects for like a serious movie to be given a G rating. And that's not really fair. It just means that no boobs are in it, basically. Or what does PG?
I was gonna say PG does not allow boobs.
Or something. No. What does PG allow?
Usually, I think PG,
violence,
like slight
or drinking or something.
No, but not even that. Like peril sometimes is what like PG. So if there's like a fear of death or like a fear of harm, sometimes can get you a PG
a certain
rating.
level of intensity or something like that.
Right, and so you'll see a lot of Pixar movies these days are rated PG, not G.
Right.
And when you watch them, you're not necessarily, it's not clear why they are rated not G. But I think usually when you actually look at the little clarification, it's for peril or distress or a little bit of violence or something like that. But it's never drinking or smoking or anything. Those get you R ratings usually.
You think R?
Smoking gets you an R automatically these days.
Really?
I believe so.
Wow.
Drinking is allowed in PG-13, but I think you can only allow people of a certain age to drink. Otherwise, you automatically get an R rating. And I think smoking across the board gets you an R rating. But getting back to Gene Shalit, I don't like this man.
I used to not really mind him, but after this, I was like, what a scold. You filthy animals are having fun watching your Gremlins and your Temple of Dooms. And I can just picture him being on every morning, just being like, back in my day, movies where people weren't getting their hearts ripped out of their chests.
Maybe that's why he's so excited to talk about the Saturday morning cartoon Muppet Babies coming soon to televisions near you.
Yeah, he is pretty pumped about Muppet Babies.
He did, however, not realize he could watch Fraggle Rock.
Yeah, which is like rude.
Well, and he does it, he like doubles down.
Yeah.
He says something about like, hey, Jim, you're ever going to bring Fraggle Rock to America? Or is it just going to be up there in Canada? And Jim's like, well, it's on HBO, so you could watch it. And he's like, well, I don't know. When are you going to bring it to America?
Yeah, what is he talking about?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't think like...
And how does Gene Shalit not have HBO?
Yeah, it's home box office. He is all about the box office. But he's all about the not home box office, I guess, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. He maybe just shouldn't be interviewing people. Maybe they should let Willard Scott interview him because they're friends.
That'd be great. But instead we get Gene Shalit, who seems to have interviewed people forever.
Well, we've already seen him be really annoying other times too, right?
Yeah, we got him in small doses before, I think, and we didn't love him. And so I think seeing him a little bit less small of a dose just really made me not like him. It's an interesting mix of interviewers, I would say, throughout this batch of things we watched this week. It's some pretty good with the Muppets. Other ones seem like they would rather be anywhere else.
Oh, interesting. I thought everybody did pretty well. Even Gene, when he's talking to Kermit, I thought did okay.
Yeah, so the next day, then, Kermit's there. They do the same, Jim Henson has his hand in everything.
I hate that shit,
joke.
Too. I hate them talking about being married, and I hate when they're like, I don't know Jim. Because it's like, that's not fucking true, dude. We've seen you talking to Jim a lot of times.
You've been on the same chair together on The Tonight Show multiple times. Yeah. You know this man. One cute little detail, Kermit has a lav mic on.
I love that so much. That like made the whole thing for me. Because I could picture Jim like walking in and being like, I was thinking yesterday, wouldn't it be cute if we put the little mic on him?
Well, it just reminds me too of like the stories you hear when they'll be on set and someone will try to point a mic at a Muppet's mouth to try and get
like
better
boom
sound.
the Muppet's mouth. Yeah, right.
Or when they'll ask like Rolf to speak louder because it's like, oh yeah, we can't pick you up at the microphone. And it's like, well, maybe mic the guy underneath the set. This is the first tease of a historic event happening in the Muppets Take Manhattan. And we see the will he or won't he with Miss Piggy and Kermit at the chapel. A clip that they seem to show on every show they went on.
Every single time. And now this feels like a fake out to me. Like the movie is not going to end with any kind of like, that doesn't seem like the point of the movie. And like you'll go there and be like, oh, that was what they were teasing. I don't know. I'll know next week.
Yes.
But as of right now, it just seems like bullshit to me.
Well, as they say, that's part of the movie, and you have to go see the movie to understand because it's Kermit says this is his personal life, and he prefers to keep things personal.
Don't make a movie about getting married, then, dumbass.
Well, he clarifies later, it's just a movie. It's in the script to get married. He didn't choose to get married.
There's just something about the way that Jim ad-libs in these parts, and something about the way that the people interviewing will never fucking drop it, that makes me viscerally angry. Like, I feel like Jim doesn't want to talk about it, and he should just tell them at the beginning, like, don't ask me questions about that.
Yeah, but
I don't
you have to
a good
imagine
answer.
He's also part of this.
I guess, but he needs to be better at it then if he's part of it. Like, if this is like a promotional like stunt, he needs to be better at it.
Because I feel like there's no way that whole will he, won't he promotional video thing gets by without Jim saying yes to it.
That's true. He might have made it on the same video toaster that he made. He might have like put those graphics on.
Whoa, look at this. Boop. I can add text to the screen.
I can make the question mark green. Wow. Like
Get
Kermit.
it like the frog is green.
Yeah. But this one, he seems like really actually mad at Gene Shalit that he won't shut up. And I did think it was pretty funny when he was like, okay, well, let's turn it around. How's your sex life?
Well, Gene says that's sort of flattering, actually.
Yeah, that was a pretty good response.
Yeah, actually, assuming that Gene Shalit has sex is apparently flattering.
I mean, he's a silly man.
But again,
I suppose
again, Jim Henson immediately having Kermit the Frog ask, how's your sex life?
Yeah.
This is a man who loves using sex and violence as a part of his entertainment.
Well, you do a lot of interviews, Matt. You say a lot of stuff. You don't have time to think about all of it.
Yeah, I don't remember what we said last week on the podcast, so.
Me either. I will know tomorrow when I'm editing it, and tonight when I'm editing it.
They try to move away from the relationship sex questions and talk to Kermit about his life growing up in a swamp in Mississippi. He cracks a little joke about going to school, a fish school, because fish travel
fish
in
have
schools.
schools, yeah.
And he likes to play baseball because he likes to catch flies, which really cracks Gene up. But then, of course, Gene Shalit says, well, what do you want for a wedding present?
And then Jim's fist comes out and uppercuts Gene.
You just see Kermit headbutt Gene Shalit in the bottom of his chin.
Yeah. You think anybody's ever been punched by a Muppet like that? Like on set, you think they've ever just, that's it. And then Scooter just like, boof.
I just like to picture when Frank Oz has both of the snouts or whatever from Menomina in his hands. And just like,
he and Jim are just, he loads his arm like
Henry Cavill in Mission Impossible.
Henry Cavill, yeah. Then proceeds to beat the shit out of Jim. I think Jim would win.
Ooh.
I think Frank talks a big game. Okay, here's the ranking.
Yeah. Oh, we're going to who all are we ranking here?
Absolutely, Jerry Nelson would kick all of their asses.
I 100% agree. He's probably like maybe the shortest of the group, but I do feel like he could fight the best.
Yeah. And then it would be Richard, I think.
Oh, interesting. I think
he just looks healthy. Richard just looks like he's got, like he like takes a jog every now and then.
See, I look at Jim and he's so lanky and like long. I feel like he's just gonna like grab you and you can't get away from him.
Gosh, Jim might even have the power to like one hit knock you out. I'm not sure.
Just that really long like arm coming around, like he's got the reach on you.
Jim second, but if he and Jerry fought, it would be ugly. And at the end of it, Jim would be on the ground. Okay, then Richard, right? Can you agree with that?
Yes, I would say Richard. I feel like He's the like Jerry Nelson. You'd be like, oh, he can fight. Don't mess with Jerry.
Yeah.
Richard Hunt's the like, I bet I could take him, and then he knocks you out. You're like, oh, what the hell, Richard?
Yeah.
I didn't realize you had that kind of power.
I think Frank talks a lot of shit, but he can't back it up.
Apparently, we both agree that Frank Oz is the worst fighter.
No, because Dave is the worst fighter.
Oh, Dave Goals.
Yeah.
Interesting.
He'd fold like a cheap lawn chair, I think. He wouldn't even pick a fight. Like, no offense to the man, but I think he wouldn't pick a fight, first of all. Second of all, I don't think he would know how to fight. He could be a fucking prize fighter for all I know, but...
I could see, Jerry and Jim going at it and Dave on the side be like, guys, come on, stop
come
it.
on, please
stop.
Yeah. I just have too much boober in my head, I think, of just him being like, I'm not having any part of this. I'll go read my book while you guys all have a big fist fight.
He's maybe if I'm picturing the Gonzo energy now, maybe he'd want to, like, if they're fighting for fun, of like, hey, let's mess around, and then he gets a little too serious, he's like, no, I'm out.
Yeah.
I didn't actually want to beat anybody up today. And Jerry Nelson's like, tough.
Yeah, now I'm just picturing Jerry like walking around the studios, like shoving people like into lockers and stuff.
With like a newsman cap pulled real down low over his eyes, just like
he's like
side-eyeing people.
Book checking the scripts out of people's hands and stuff.
Hey, what up, nerd? Wow, we are assuming so many things.
And then I think Richard would be behind him being like, yeah, Jerry, you show him,
A little bully duo.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's how they would beat each other up, and they'd all have Muppets on their fists while they were doing it. Which Muppet would hurt the worst to get punched by? Dr. Teeth. He's got those glasses.
What about Sam from Sam and Friends?
Oh, he would just like...
That's just a wood block.
I think it would just like... is it? It's like fake wood, though, isn't it? Or is it actual wood?
I feel like it's definitely harder than a lot of like the foam Muppet heads, though.
I feel like there's a reality somehow in which it'd punch you and it hurt less than if you got punched, and it would break like into 8 million pieces, and you'd just be like, what? What was that? It just turned into dust.
I'm trying to think what Muppets wear, like headwear, like ones that have helmets or something, like a Super Grover kind of situation.
Oh, that would
mess
hurt,
you up.
Yeah. But I bet Dr. Teeth has a spring in his hat.
Oh, interesting theory.
He's probably got something in his hat that's keeping the structure and the bounciness. And he's got the sunglasses eyelids. I think the sunglasses eyelids would really slice you up.
Got some like hard plastic going on there.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, let us know. Maybe on Twitter or something like that.
Which Muppet do you think would hurt the worst to get punched by?
Not with their fists, but with the fist that's inside of their head.
Yeah, because obviously
not
the
Dr.
Muppets who
Teeth
would hurt
punching
worst to
you.
get punched by would be the ones with real hands.
Yeah, like Sweetums would knock you out.
Yeah, and Fozzie would kick your ass. But there's got to be a spiky Muppet we're forgetting, right?
A Skeksis would mess you up. Just that
yeah, because they'd
beak.
have like... Yeah, and it has like motorized stuff inside of it.
Yeah,
that would
or
just,
like a
break
gelfling that
through
seems to
the
be carved out of
skin.
wood. Just
Yes, a gelfling.
you don't want
That
to be
could
punched by a
bad.
Dark Crystal character.
No. Or headbutted by one of the Ninja Turtle puppets. That would be scary. They're like
They're
real
so
teeth. They'd just like bite your face, and there'd be a guy in there being like,
Oh,
I'm gonna
God.
get you, motherfucker. And he'd be like punching you in the
It'd be
gut.
like that scene in Alien when the
Yeah.
queen opens up her mouth, but it'd just be a normal dude inside.
Just a guy. Yeah.
But anyway, getting back to Kermit and Gene Shalit, they wrap it up with Gene basically telling Kermit, you should try and meet that Jim Henson guy sometime. He says you'll recognize him. He usually has a TV in his lap.
Yeah, but then he also says, and he's a nice, nice man, which is really sweet.
Yeah, and the note about the TV in his lap it seems like it actually catches Jim a little off guard.
Yeah, he liked that.
One has to imagine that right underneath that table is Jim with a monitor in his lap.
Watching him say that in the TV in
Yes.
his lap. Yeah.
And he also describes Jim as always looking like he's hailing a cab with his arm up above his head.
Yeah, that was pretty cute.
I think I like Gene Shalit when he's not trying to be Gene Shalit and like interviewing people, but when he's cracking little jokes here and there, or the joke about his own sex life or the jokes about Jim, those moments are much more human.
It does seem like he has a character he plays who is
Right.
grating and opinionated on purpose, which makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of grading, next up we've got Joel Siegel on Good Morning America, talking about how Muppets Take Manhattan is far and away the best Muppet movie. We get to see a few clips from the movie, but then it's time for David Hartman to be the most respectful interviewer maybe who's ever introduced Miss Piggy. He mentions the beautiful actresses and women he's gotten to talk to and interview and all this
stuff.
stuff.
Some are mere flashes in the pan.
But not this one. This is an international superstar. This is Miss Piggy. But it felt like he was introducing, here's Katharine Hepburn.
Yeah, and I think throughout this, it feels like he is talking to a real person. They just needed to have more to talk about.
Yeah, there's a lot of underwritten segments, I think, throughout this batch where they had an idea they went in with, and then about 2 minutes in, they run out of steam, and they still got 7 minutes left to go.
Miss Piggy starts busting on his toupee, which I thought was pretty good. I like that.
Which we've seen Frank do before as Fozzie to another guy, but this is the first time we've seen Piggy do it. And it's mostly to avoid talking about the relationship questions because as he keeps asking them about it, she's just staring at the back of his head. And it's like, oh, you can't even see the line. It's a really good fit.
I did like this little characteristic because she like compares it to her own wigs and how tricky it is to have a wig like that looks so good. But does that guy really have a toupee? I'm so bad at spotting toupees. Okay.
All the who knows what kind of work he got done throughout the years, but the photos I've seen of him as an older man, he has pretty still full head of hair. So presumably,
maybe it's the same toupee, Matt.
I mean, maybe he's just really good at aging that toupee because it doesn't look the same as it did in the 80s. It's pretty white and thin. So
okay.
But yeah, I don't think it was a toupee, but Miss Piggy was much closer than I was.
I suppose throughout this, I was putting myself in the position of like waking up in the morning, eating my bowl of cereal, and watching Miss Piggy on the TV.
Yeah.
In that situation, it's always a delight to see Miss Piggy.
I did have the moment, though, of this segment is so much longer than it should be.
Yeah, and they didn't really like have any. Did they show a clip?
Yeah.
Maybe at the beginning they showed a clip.
They once again show the will he, won't he clip again, the same exact one they show with Gene Shalit. He asks about their relationship. They do all that stuff. But it just goes on for so long, and they just keep coming back to the relationship stuff. And I was just thinking of like, this is like prime TV real estate in the morning on Good Morning America. Yeah. And you're spending like 8 minutes just talking about the same relationship issues.
It really makes me wonder how big of a deal Kermit and Piggy's relationship was to like your average American. Was it really like somebody who was alive at the time? Tell us. Was it like, were people actually talking about this, or was it completely manufactured by the Muppets people, or was it like, why would you care that much about it? But everybody seems to care about it on TV, at least.
Yeah, and it's got to be interesting because, again, we've talked about this. The Muppets haven't been doing a ton of stuff recently in like this era. They had
these Muppets, like
we've watched a lot of Fraggle Rock, but Kermit and Piggy in particular haven't been doing a ton of TV appearances before this, talking about their relationship.
I suppose, yeah.
It's been a while since the Muppet Show was on, and so we had the Great Muppet Caper was the last big thing
That's true.
that the Muppets had done, aside from, there's like the Rocky Mountain Holidays and all those things. But the Muppets themselves weren't a fixture on TV at this point.
Right.
So that hype does feel manufactured to me of this will he, won't he thing. But we've also seen that they were talking about Kermit and Piggy's relationship even during the Muppet Show on different TV appearances. So this is something that there was at least a slight fascination already about. And maybe when they were writing the movie, they decided to lean into that and do this whole marketing move. So I think it's maybe a balance of both. Of some people were genuinely...
It was organic at first, and then they capitalized on it. Yeah.
There's also only so much to talk about with Muppets. When like in a typical interview question, like you don't... I mean, they even try to ask Piggy at one point about her hobbies, and she's like, I don't have any. And it's like, cool, good improv, Frank. But moving on from that, it's like, you don't give us a lot of actual backstory on these characters because most of the time they're playing characters and other things.
You can't really talk about the Muppet Show because it's not really like germane to anything. And it's not like people can watch it or anything like that.
Right. And so I think it's probably not just the interviewers thinking about it, but if they're asking Jim, hey, what should we talk about? The only thing really they might have to go off of is this relationship.
That's true. That's a good point, Matt. Maybe they should have let some other performers come and do the spots with them then, Yeah,
that's, why not throw a New Zealand in there or something to hype up Muppets Take Manhattan?
Why not let Scooter show up or something? Or like have Rolf be the puppet that you have doing the interview or something like that. Or Fozzie.
Yeah, I was actually pleasantly surprised that we got some Fozzie and Animal later on in this batch, but not enough, I would say. We get a lot of the Kermit and Piggy.
I'm racking my brain trying to figure out what else Kermit would even talk about now that you've said it. Like, he doesn't got anything.
He's got frog jokes, and he's got Piggy.
He's completely, what's that word in the dictionary? What's the defined? He's completely defined by this relationship that he doesn't want anything to do with.
Right.
And that's literally all his existential horror is that is the only thing interesting about him.
Right. He's the very neutral middleman, like running the show kind of thing. But as far as personality goes, we don't know a ton about Kermit in his free time.
He hangs out with Grover.
Yeah, he's not going to mention that on Merv Griffin and be like, yeah, this weird blue guy shows up to try to sell me things sometimes. That's when I'm in my other apartment on Sesame Street. Piggy doesn't know about that one.
My neighbor's involved in a lot of multi-level marketing schemes where he's trying to sell me weather.
I feel bad for him. I try to help him out sometimes, but he really wrecks my apartment a lot of the time. So, but they show Piggy an old conversation, seemingly from Kermit promoting Rocky Mountain Holiday. This is not a clip we've ever seen.
But he's in a little outfit though.
Yeah, so either he was there talking about Rocky Mountain Holiday, or this might have been part of the National Wildlife Federation promotion.
Yeah, right.
That's the only two times we've seen him in that outfit. But I couldn't find any real record of that appearance on Good Morning America, so this is the most I think we have to watch of it. Moving on to The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. Miss Piggy once again pops up, and once again gets a very respectful introduction. Johnny talks about how he could not be happier than having this international beautiful star on his show tonight. One thing I noted throughout this batch that's really nice to hear, which makes sense when you think about it, but everyone talking about this movie being directed by Frank Oz and hearing Frank Oz's name said so many times by all these people.
It is kind of crazy now that you mention it. Like, somebody gets confused about who was directing the movie too. And Jim is
That's
like,
Merv.
Oh, no, Frank did. Yeah, okay. And it's like, no, Frank did this one. And yeah, just like he is such on equal footing in this set of interviews as Jim. I guess probably because The Dark Crystal, they co-directed together.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and think about the fact of this director who directed and wrote this big Hollywood movie is now promoting his movie as Miss Piggy and Fozzie and like all these other characters. But like that's the director of the movie sitting on the floor next to Johnny Carson right now.
And the writer, as you said, he like did a pass on it or something. Right?
So there's waves, and I think there was some conflict about who got the credit for this thing. But from what I understand, Frank Oz kind of gave the final pass on things. And throughout this batch, we hear Jim repeatedly say that Frank Oz wrote this film and does not mention anybody else. It's a Frank Oz joint.
But yeah, that is really nice. I didn't think about that. He even gets to like talk about his background and like his real name and stuff.
Yeah, which, we'll get to that. But in this, we get Johnny Carson immediately telling Piggy that she's quite a turn on.
A bunch of times.
He keeps like really reiterating, like, no, did you hear me though? I said you're a turn on. I like you.
You know, and I kept thinking about how when we saw Johnny, maybe not last time, but recently, he was doing a bad job at talking to Kermit. Remember?
He just could not stop being like, I'm talking to a frog.
Yeah, but this time, confronted with a sexy pig woman, he's like, I'm in.
No hesitation. Not a single moment does he mention, hey, I'm talking to Fleece here.
He's smooching her. He's talking her up. He's
so much smooching of Piggy in this batch, too. All the men want to smooch Piggy on the nose.
It would be pretty hard to resist giving her a little peck on the nose, I think.
And he asks where Piggy grew up, and she says on a farm, to which somebody in the audience laughs. And
everybody thinks that's funny for some reason.
Yeah, there's a couple moments throughout these appearances where someone in the crowd will laugh at something, and Frank Oz goes, that's not funny. I guess Piggy, not Frank Oz, but Piggy will be like, that's not funny.
Yeah, and the sounds one, she gets asked like a very serious question, and the interviewer starts laughing, and she's like, I'm about to like bare my soul to you, and you're laughing at me?
Yeah. Well, in this, she talks about growing up on a farm, and Johnny Carson's like, hey, I grew up in the Midwest, in like Iowa and Nebraska near farms. And Piggy's like, Iowa, they have lots of pigs there. And Johnny Carson says, yeah, I know. I went out with some of them.
I feel like when he says I grew up in the Midwest too, Frank, you can kind of tell Frank's like, ah, shit. I'm going to have to know the name of a single town in the Midwest now.
Yeah, even when he says Iowa, Piggy's like, Iowa! I don't have anything to say about Iowa. Please continue,
I've
Johnny.
heard of Iowa.
It's over there, right? But Piggy didn't go to college, we find out. She just went to charm school.
What is charm school?
I think it's like to become a classy lady.
Is it real?
I mean, I think there's versions of that. It's like etiquette school kind of thing.
What is finishing school? Okay, so this on Wikipedia says finishing school and charm school are the same. And she says she didn't go to finishing school.
Oh, interesting.
And implies that that's like a college of some sort, and says she went to charm school. So Frank doesn't even know what he's talking about.
Well, from my understanding, finishing school can be like an actual school, and charm school is like literally just to go learn manners. But maybe I'm wrong. Like I feel like finishing school is a part of actual like a private school, whereas charm school could just be, you know, a thing you go to on the weekends like karate.
The name, okay, so finishing school focuses on teaching young women social graces and upper class cultural rights as a preparation for entry into society. The name reflects that it follows on from ordinary school. So it's like a post-school situation, and there is some education involved. Academic subjects are secondary, though. And in the U.S., it's sometimes called charm school. But I feel like there probably is like certain distinctions there.
Yeah, but it seems like they're probably close enough to the same thing that it's weirder that Piggy says, no, I didn't do finishing school. I did charm school.
I bet in other countries that aren't America, you probably learn more in finishing school than you do in America, is my guess.
Big claim for someone who knows nothing about finishing school.
Yeah, but I think like if you're going to finishing school in like whatever, like Lake Geneva or whatever, they're probably making you read like a book, you know?
What?
And here they're probably teaching you how to like tap dance.
Sam, I want you to tell me where Lake Geneva is.
Is it in Switzerland?
Google Lake Geneva right now, Sam.
It's in Wisconsin?
Ding ding!
Well, where's just regular Geneva? The Geneva Conventions, Switzerland. I just meant Geneva. There's a big lake in Geneva. I'm looking at it right now.
But when people refer to Lake Geneva, which I think actually even happens in this batch of things at some point, they're talking about Wisconsin.
Interesting. What a fancy name for a Wisconsin place.
Sorry to all of our listeners in Wisconsin.
No, I got it confused with Switzerland, so they're probably honored right now. Sorry to Switzerland, actually.
And now, sorry to Wisconsin. Johnny Carson says to Piggy, I've never noticed that you're such a full-figured woman.
You guys are just looking down her dress.
And he's like doing hand motions of like, yeah, you're really... And all Piggy says in response is, yeah? Yeah? What about it?
A good challenging response. That's how you're supposed to confront these things. You're supposed to say, explain what you mean by that.
Yeah, what's the joke there, Johnny? What's those hand gestures mean?
You got big hooters, babe. Come on.
When asked if she has any hobbies, at first Piggy says no, but then says diamond collecting. But she likes someone else to collect them for her.
Yeah.
I think this is sort of like a sugar daddy joke.
Yeah, people are giving her diamond rings and stuff.
Right.
She's like, diamond collecting's better when you got someone doing it for you.
But Johnny doesn't really take the bait or talk about it at all, so it kind of goes nowhere. He asked if she can cook, and this was like a snort laugh came out of me. I was surprised when he asked, what do you like to cook? And she just goes, water?
Which almost is not a very good joke, but just the way she says it is funny. And then a second later, you're like, you could have said something funnier than that, maybe.
Right. There's a few lines throughout this that aren't funny on paper, but Frank performing them the way he does makes them really funny. They then take a commercial break and come back to the most bizarre line of questioning we've seen so far. Johnny Carson asks Miss Piggy if she can break dance. And she's like, no, what are you talking about? Like, you break dance. He's like, I'm not going to break dance. And then that just stops and goes nowhere.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if maybe there was a break dancer earlier on the show or something.
I'm pretty sure the movie Break-In had just come out.
Oh, Johnny Carson's favorite film?
It did come out in 1984.
All right.
It came out in, May of 1984. So I think breakdancing was probably actually like culturally... Well, it's always culturally important, but squares like Johnny Carson knew what breakdancing was at this particular moment.
Interestingly, the guests on this night, along with Miss Piggy, were Howie Mandel.
Oh,
and
did he know yet? He must have known. Was he Skeeter yet?
He must have been. Skeeter's there from the very beginning.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I don't remember when Dave Coulier and him traded off on some things, but I believe Howie Mandel was there from the beginning.
Okay.
He also had just done Gremlins, so.
Oh, right. He's Gizmo. I've already forgotten what I learned last episode.
The other guest was Dr. John E. McCosker, who brought a leopard shark, which seems like a difficult talk show guest.
Yeah. Do you wheel an entire aquarium?
Yeah.
Or a tiger shark's one of the ones you can pet. There might be a petting zoo one.
You
huh?
could pet them, but they still need water.
Well, sure. But maybe not that much. They might just need a little a bathtub.
Now, say they probably need more than what he gave them. Perhaps more bizarre, but at least more on topic, Johnny then transitions into asking Piggy if she has any love scenes with Kermit in this movie, to which she replies, no. Like, why would there be love scenes in a Muppet movie, sir? And she says, I'm a lady, I don't disrobe. To which he says, so you wouldn't do frontal nudity? And she says, well, not now. And she says, she finally admits that she would, with Kermit's consent, and it would have to be artistic.
Why? Why are they talking about that?
I don't know. Johnny Carson just can't stop thinking about that voluptuous body. And then, of course, after that, Johnny's like, so how about that wedding in the movie? Will he, won't he? Blah, 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 blah. And Piggy, of course, says, I can't talk about it. You have to go watch the movie.
Yeah, they gloss over it pretty good.
But Piggy reassures him by saying, hey, don't you worry. You're going to watch this movie. You're going to think I love Kermit. But I've only got eyes for you, Johnny. And sings My Funny Valentine to Johnny Carson.
I love the little moment when he acts like she spit on his face.
He like wipes it off.
Uh-huh. Johnny's really come a long way in interacting with Muppets. Good job, Johnny. Maybe he's been practicing.
She's got a sock at home.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, Ed, can you come over and bring a sock? I got to practice.
All right. Whatever you want, Johnny.
Oh, you got it. Next up on July 19th, 1984 is the Merv Griffin Show. Now, at this point, the movie had already come out, so this is continuing the hype, that word of mouth, and getting people to go back to the theater the second weekend. And they do an entire salute to the new film, The Muppets Take Manhattan. They got big Jay Leno energy coming off of Merv Griffin, and not in a good way.
Oh, I liked him.
Oh, I didn't like him at all.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, especially his first joke is talking about the Olympics coming to town, and they're competing in the most grueling of sports, looking for a parking spot.
Look, man, it was 1984. They hadn't written all the jokes yet. They were still working on it.
That's actually worse. They hadn't run out of jokes yet. They still
That's
had
true. I
new
guess you're
cool
right.
ones to write.
We'll talk about this, but I liked him because I felt like he genuinely respected the Muppets. And I feel like this isn't like the best time that the Muppets have gotten to take over a whole talk show. I think every other time has actually been a little bit better. But I feel like the way he talks about them and the way he talks to Jim and Frank is just like, I get what you guys are doing, and I know that it's like a art and that you guys are the best at it. And I want to have like a real conversation with you about it.
It's a little like Mike Douglas, I would say. It's
Yeah.
maybe the closest thing we've watched to this, where this is not a man who naturally works with puppets, and he kind of lets them do what they do best.
Right.
And occasionally he's like, I decided I'm going to sing right now for no reason.
That was a little weird. I didn't know that he was going to sing.
Yeah, after he makes a weird joke to a little girl in the crowd about her being amazed to see him
that
in real
wasn't
life.
great either. Yeah. It's like, oh, wow, Merv Griffin. Like that girl. She
Yeah.
just
She's
couldn't
like,
say, I
I'm
don't
here
give
for
a
Muppets,
shit.
sir. But he then is like, you know what it's time for? This movie is about New York. And there's a song about New York, and I'm going to sing it right now. And I'm going to pretend that I'm playing piano as well.
Oh, he was pretending.
At first, it doesn't look like it, but near the end, his hands are
stops,
up in the
doesn't
air.
he? The piano's still going. Yeah, you're right. I
Yes,
remember
the
that
piano
now.
does not stop, but Merv Griffin's hands are nowhere near the keys.
All right. You're right.
Rolf is a more convincing piano player than Merv Griffin. But coming back from a commercial break, Merv mentions that Kermit has visited the show before, something else that we've never gotten to see, but apparently I think it was in 1977 promoting The Muppet Show. But again, this goes on and on about Piggy and Kermit's relationship. This one actually gets a little frustrating, I would say, personally, for me, where it just is bickering.
Yeah, they're just not good at being Kermit and Piggy together, I feel like.
Not when they're not written. I'd say
Not
the
when
improv,
it's not scripted. Yeah, you're right.
There's sometimes where you can feel Frank purposefully challenging Jim, and that works well. There's
Yeah.
moments in this where I feel like Jim is trying to keep Frank in a box or trying to keep him on track in a way that
Right.
hampers, like it makes Frank's performance worse, or I think at times even makes it feel like Frank isn't allowed to play, and so he is rebelling against.
By playing harder and meaner.
Yes.
I think that I'm hitting upon what I don't like about it is partially that I feel like Jim's approach is that Kermit doesn't want to be in a relationship, like doesn't like when people say that he's in a relationship,
Right.
and they're not in a relationship. When I think the approach should be he doesn't want to talk about it, but they are in a relationship, and it might be more fun if every now and then he was like a little bit sweet instead of being just mean.
Well, and we've seen that already. We've seen that a couple times where we're like, oh, I think this confirms that they are secretly dating, but just
Like
don't
on
want
the
to talk about
Oscars
it.
or something like that. Yeah, there was like a you're
Yeah,
right.
I don't remember exactly when it was, but there was a time we commented on the fact that it seemed like Kermit was confirming that they were, in fact, in a relationship.
Right. He was saying like she's my I love her.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think that'll be inconsistent literally forever until the 2015 series where they like say, we broke up and now we might get back together. So,
yeah. Right.
yeah, but they continue to go on while Merv continues to flirt with Miss Piggy.
He says she smells nice at one point, which made me wonder if she actually smells nice. Like, do they spray her with a bit of perfume? I could see them doing that.
Or maybe it's just like the glue fumes coming off
She's
of it.
like glue, and that's why people all think that she's real. Because it's just like the perm chemicals and the glue smell, and they're just like, wow. I'm seeing a pig here.
Miss Piggy's perfume doesn't come out until 2014, I think.
Yeah.
The jokey perfume they put out. So, yeah, I think this is, at this point, there's no Piggy perfume you can purchase.
And this is also when she mentions hiring a real minister. Am I imagining that was like a plot point that got cut out of the Muppets 11 movie or something like that?
Maybe that they referred back to getting married. I think originally, I'm trying to rack my brain now. I think there was a note in the original script of the 2011 Muppets movie that she told us about where they were referring back to the fact that they actually got married in the Muppets Take Manhattan.
At the end of Muppets Take Manhattan, right, as they were making that movie.
Right. So, yes, and this is something that also happened on the Muppet Show before, where she hired a real minister. So this is an ongoing thing that will, again, literally never stop, apparently. This bit eventually gets frustrating and mean, I feel, again, personally, that when Miss Piggy's talking about how they were looking for an apartment all day, and then that sort of, like, turns into a weird thing where Kermit just has to deny that was happening. And
yeah, which isn't, like, it's like the cartoon thing you learn about ad-libbing is that you're not supposed to just say, no, we weren't.
Well, and you're also not supposed to put people in really weird scenarios. It's the Michael Scott in The Office being like, and then I have a gun. And it's like, well, now you just ruined the entire scene. And it feels like a bit where maybe Frank is frustrated with Jim. Maybe Frank just is trying to see how far he can push this. But the idea to introduce the fact that they were looking at apartments all day feels like a thing that's impossible for Jim to rebut, other than just, no, you are lying. And that's not fun comedy to be like, she's a liar.
Yeah, that's true.
The comedy can be, we view our relationship differently, or she thought the movie was real, or something like that. But to just say, oh, you're just lying right now is not that funny.
Yeah, I mean, there's a way that he could have implied that they were looking for an apartment, but for her or for something like that. But
yes. Or like saying, like, I thought we were visiting somebody. Is that what we were doing? We were looking at apartments? Like, there's other areas to take it in.
Right.
But speaking of not funny, right after this is when they're talking a bit about Piggy going to charm school. She then says she did some commercials and she sold gloves. And when she said she sold gloves, that's when someone in the audience laughs and Piggy yells, that's not funny.
Not. She's right.
Yeah. She also
It would be funny if she was like, that's why I have this lifetime supply of the same exact pink gloves all the time.
Right. That's why I wear gloves all the time. You don't want to see me without gloves. You're going to think it's weird. Look at these hands. But Kermit says that their children would be little green figs, which really upsets Miss Piggy. And Merv tries to move on and talk about Piggy's acting in this movie, saying that she hams it up
Stupid.
in this movie. Yeah.
Just stop it.
Yeah. But thankfully they take a commercial break and they come back to see Frank Oz wearing a really cool leather blazer.
He looks great. Yeah.
And this is when Merv asks Frank Oz, or actually doesn't necessarily ask, he says, Oz must have something to do with that wizard, huh? And he goes,
weird thing to say.
No, it just has to do with my actual last name being Osnowitz.
Name.
But he does kind of imply that it's a little bit because of Jimmy Dean. It sounded like what he was saying is that when they did the Jimmy Dean show, Jimmy would introduce him and say, yeah, this is Frank Osnowitz.
I've never heard that version of it. But I wonder, so I guess when I heard that the first time, I was like, why is he introducing him on the show? But I guess probably he just meant like when they were like hanging out or like in the offices or something.
That's what I was picturing is somebody is backstage meeting Jim and Frank. And Jimmy Dean's like, hey, this is Jim Henson and this is Frank Osnowitz.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose that seems pretty likely that maybe not just Jimmy, but like everybody was having trouble with it. He's like, well, these freaks aren't going to learn my last name.
Once again, Jim talks about it being 30 years since he started doing the Muppets.
Maybe he keeps saying it because he hopes somebody will like throw him a party or something, and nobody did.
Hey, it's been 30 years. That's quite a big thing. I think everyone should acknowledge that it's been 30 years since I did this thing. Frank talks about how when he first met Jim, he was 19, and Jim was like, hey, want to come work with me for a little while? And then he just never left. Frank also talks a little bit about how he was too scared to do the voices early on and gives us some insight into, at least he, at this moment, believed that the two-headed monster on the Al Hirsch show might have been the first voice he ever did.
Yeah. Is that true?
I have no idea. I'm going to trust Frank.
Did we watch that?
We did. We watched a couple of Al Hirsch things. One of them was Java, where he was playing the trumpet.
Oh,
during
he's
Java.
the trumpet guy.
Yeah, and then we watched the two-headed monster bit. This was pre-Sesame Street two-headed monster. This was one, I think some smoke came out of its head or something. It's been a while since we watched that one. That was like episode 4 or something of this podcast. But they get to talk a little bit about older Muppet things that don't always come up on shows like this. Merv asks Jim if Kermit is the oldest Muppet, and he says, well, he's not the first Muppet, but he is the oldest that we still currently use. And they talk about how he used to be kind of just abstract and a little lizardy, but mentions that around the time of the Frog Prince, they actually made him a frog.
Yeah, I thought Merv was asking good questions and seemed genuinely interested in the content.
Sure. I think there are moments where I'm like, ooh, look at him go. And then there's other moments where he just kind of lets things fall and moves on to a next question on his
It's hard.
sheet.
It's hard. Just because you're good at interviewing people doesn't mean everybody is.
This man did it for like 100 years.
Yeah. Well, he's renowned as a good interviewer, I think. Like he on his show, it looked like he had like a lot of anti-Vietnam people and a lot of like really controversial people, and would kind of like he would like not come into it maybe with a point of view as much and let them talk about what they wanted to talk about and ask them questions about it. Kind of got in like hot water for letting people talk about the things that they believed in.
I mean, yeah, at the very end of this episode, we say, tomorrow we'll be joined by Gore Vidal. And Piggy goes, Gore Vidal?
Gore Vidal. Yeah.
So maybe Frank was a big fan and was just like, holy shit, Gore Vidal's going to be here? That's awesome. Jim says a very telling sentence, I think, when he says that Kermit enjoys performing on these things more than I do, when he's referring to TV shows. Frank talks a bit about the creation of Miss Piggy and how at the beginning she really wasn't a character at all and then just kind of all came together. And then Frank Oz says maybe the least cool sentence anyone's ever said. Jim and I did a rock video.
When they call it the Muppets rock video to such a suspicious amount that I'm sure Jim must just say, we made a Muppets rock video. It's all these people. And they're like, okay, I guess I don't know what that is.
Well, you got to think at this point, MTV had been on the air for like 3 years.
Yeah, that's what I looked up too. I was like, Did like music videos come out yesterday? What are they talking about?
No, because they're specifically in the music video that we'll talk about here in a minute or two, referencing other music videos like Billie Jean. So,
Oh, yeah, right.
Like there is a precedent set for this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it just feels weird that they're all referred to as rock videos because this music you're making, guys, ain't
It's
rock.
doo-wop, first of all. Also, you sound like you're 1,000 years old. And aliens also.
Yes, watch our rock video, please. But they don't get to show us the rock video in this one. We have to save that for later. But Merv comes back, and it seems like... So we had to watch this in a bit of a weird order because some things are cut out of the Merv Griffin episode on Tubi. But we have a compilation of cut things from this episode, and one of them is Rolf, who Merv Griffin refers to as one of the most gifted Muppets, which is an interesting way to talk about a fictional character like that.
Who doesn't actually play piano.
Yes. precisely. But he does mention that he used to see him on the Jimmy Dean show. And I believe this Rolf song happens before the next Fozzie bit because he says something about, now I'm going to go talk to Fozzie at the end of the Rolf thing.
Right.
So we see Rolf play a couple of songs. He sings Down Memory Lane and You and I and George. Mm-hmm. And I got to say, I think this is the worst Rolf performance we've ever seen.
Oh, why?
The lip syncing is incredibly bad.
Oh, I didn't notice.
And I think
Fozzie's was pretty bad, I thought.
I think there's some lack of rehearsal time that messes up some of this performance a little bit. Because you got to think, like, on the Muppet Show, they'll shoot multiple takes when they're lip syncing Rolf to a song, etc. And the other times we've seen Rolf be great is when it's actually Jim performing the voice at the same time he's puppeteering Rolf, like not lip syncing to something.
You don't think he was doing that here?
No, I think this is all lip synced.
Okay.
And that's my read on it, at least, which is usually what they did for songs on the Muppet Show. And so my guess is that they recorded this, didn't have a lot of time to rehearse it, went out there and did it, had one take, and so it's kind of the best they could do under the weird circumstances. But it was just kind of the most I've ever felt Rolf was a puppet.
Oh. Well, I'm just so dazzled by him every time I see him. I was just thinking about how his mouth's black inside and doesn't have a tongue like every other Muppet does, which always is so weird to me.
Just a bottomless void. But then Murph does come back, and he has Fozzie with him. Fozzie brought some jokes from Gags Beasley he wants to try out. They're not good.
I think the dog one's really funny.
I think the performance of the dog one is pretty good. So he starts off saying, I just flew in from New York, and boy, are my arms tired.
Nobody likes that.
Nope, they like almost boo him.
Yeah.
And the next joke, he goes, what has 4 legs, a tail, and barks? And Merv goes, a dog? And Fozzie's like, oh, you heard that one.
You heard it before? That was really funny.
Yeah. And his last joke is, what does a chicken eat for lunch? Human McNuggets.
And this one, it seems like he almost like got in trouble. Like Merv was like, you can't say that.
It did feel like a Frank note more than a Fozzie joke. Like it felt like a thing that
that's too edgy for Fozzie.
Yeah.
And Merv like rips the paper out of his hand and like throws it, and he's like, no.
But we get to calm down a little bit because we come back from commercial break, and Dabney Coleman is here now.
What a class act. I love this guy.
As I often do, watching old actors on old TV shows, I'm always obsessed with how old they are. So looking this up,
was he 35 years old?
No, but he was 52, the same age as Ewan McGregor currently is.
Oh my God.
So people just looked older back in the day, and also plastic surgery was less prevalent. So
that's true. That's probably more what it is.
Yeah, Botox and plastic surgery. A lot of celebrities, obviously, that's how they're looking young these days. But there also was just different standards, I think, for Hollywood back then. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's just interesting to see that, you know, this guy is the same age as Ewan McGregor. But yeah, I love Dabney Coleman, and that man is still acting.
He's still alive?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
He's like 91. He's on Yellowstone currently.
Oh my gosh, that makes sense.
But yeah, I know him best from 9 to 5 as the terrible boss.
Right. Oh, okay. Yeah, this is a fun interview, and I loved, he's just like, he's such a serious actor, it seems like, and he's like on stage and stuff, but then the way he's like acting with the Muppets is like acting with the greatest actor you've ever acted with. It's like, oh my gosh, if I was Frank and Jim, I'd be like crying.
And it seems like every time they're not talking about Muppets, he wants to get back to talking about Muppets as soon as possible.
Right. Then that weird moment with Animal happens at the end.
So Animal pops up and just yells, Dabney, Dabney, Dabney. And they're just kind of like, oh, wow. Look
Dabney
at this
does do
guys.
a good job acting like he's terrified of Animal.
Yes.
He's really like, ugh.
But I think the weird moment that maybe you're mentioning is like Animal goes away and they're like, all right, well, time to wrap up the interview. And they shake hands. And while they're like saying goodbye to each other, Animal pops his head around the couch and neither of them notice.
No. And then the camera cuts and then cuts back and then Animal's gone because Frank was just like, I guess never mind.
Yeah.
But it's creepy to have a Muppet around that nobody notices.
Yes. Which I do feel like has also happened maybe on the Mike Douglas show or some other things before where somebody pops up, or I think it was Dick Cavett, where like a Muppet popped up and somebody wasn't happening to like look at the monitor and all of a sudden they turn and they're like, oh, hey, Cookie Monster.
Yeah.
Or whoever was there.
I think somebody has screamed at a Snurf before also.
Oh, yeah, when the Snurfs used to cause the havoc, I think on the Mike Douglas show when they were creeping around. But when we come back from this commercial break, Animal and Kermit are hanging out with Merv Griffin in a very weird bit where Kermit is insistent on talking about movies.
Yeah. And he is also doing a bad ad-libbing job because they keep bringing up movies and asking Animal if he's seen them. And Animal's like, no. And then Kermit's like, yes, you did.
You did. And I have no follow-up to make that interesting, but I
help you.
You saw it.
Yeah.
I think Frank does his best, though, as Animal. We get a much more, I'd say, reserved Animal. He seems very sleepy.
Yeah.
But
kind of a bit more like the Muppets Mayhem Animal.
Like post-TikTok Animal
Right.
on the Muppets Mayhem, where he's truly exhausted from all the work he's been doing.
Yeah.
And the main big things we get from Animal throughout this is him yelling cinema whenever they're talking about movies.
Uh-huh.
He also says Bambi repeatedly.
That was a great avenue to go down. They should have kept going down that instead of bringing up the yearling.
Yeah. So another sad deer movie. Did you see that one?
And it seemed like maybe Frank was like, I actually haven't seen that movie, so
I don't know anything about the yearling. Nobody does.
Yeah.
And they mentioned, was it Wizard of Oz they also mention? And he asks him about, like, the Scarecrow and the Lion and the Tin Man. And I was like, yeah. And Merv's like, so you saw that one? He's like, no. And that's very good.
That's funny.
And that's when Kermit goes, yes, you did.
Shut the fuck up, Kermit.
Stop it, Jim.
Yeah.
But he does try to eat both the handkerchief and Merv at the very end of this. He chomps down on Merv's arm at the very end.
I'd love to get chomped by an animal. Wouldn't that be fun?
It would just be a guy's hand. Like, you'd feel the fingers in there.
Oh, okay. Maybe not.
Like, there's a mouth plate, so maybe it would just be the plastic. But you probably would feel a little bit of the fingers grabbing on, or at least the thumb.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Shut up. Never mind.
And the show wraps up with Kermit and Piggy coming out. Piggy in a fantastic suit.
Yeah. She looks like the mom from, doesn't she look exactly like the mom from Schitt's Creek in that outfit?
Oh, yeah.
Like, I feel like that is literally an outfit that she wears on Schitt's Creek.
Yeah, Moira on Schitt's Creek often wears black and white and big, shoulder pad outfits and stuff. And I feel like there must be an episode where she has like a perm wig going on. Oh, yeah. There is a very, very similar outfit. I think it's actually maybe in the final episode. No spoilers, but I think there's an episode where she is rocking a nice perm
I'm seeing
and
it.
a suit.
Yeah, she's got a lot of suits where she has big shoulder affectations.
Well, then we move on to the Pampers commercial, which aired around this time, clearly. And I did write in my notes, it is nice to see the newsman.
Yeah, and he's like, this is what he's like made to do. He was made to be a commercial character, I feel like.
I mean, he works extremely well in that avenue. Like, I feel like he would do well if they wanted to keep doing Muppet commercials with him.
Yeah.
I don't think that happens, but it would work well.
Yeah, they could just bring back a new golden age of doing ads for anything with the Muppet Newsman. I actually liked him, and I was so sick of him by the end of the Muppet Show. And this time I was like, wow, this is right for you.
There's not a lot to say about the Pampers commercial itself, obviously, because it's pretty short. But in the Brian J. Jones Jim Henson biography, he does say that lucrative offers came in from companies wanting to produce items targeted specifically toward families with infants and toddlers, including Procter & Gamble, which wanted the Muppet Babies to help sell Pampers diapers. Apparently in this moment, Jim arched an eyebrow coyly and said, "You're going to let kids shit on my name?" And apparently then agreed to the deal. So,
we're going to give you a lot of money to do it, too.
But I love those moments. There's a small little hint of it, I felt like, in the beginning of the Merv Griffin interview with Jim and Frank, where I felt like I was seeing the real casual Jim for a few moments there, which we don't see a lot. We see interview Jim, who's nervous to be on TV, self-admitted. But there's a moment when he starts talking maybe about the early days of the Muppets or something, when it just felt like a dude having a conversation. And the idea of, like, Jim saying, "You're going to let kids shit on my name," is not a Jim that I feel like we get to see.
Right.
But lines up a little bit more with that.
But I can't picture it. Like, he'd say it with, like, his little smile and his twinkling eyes. And, he did seem just like somebody's dad.
Well, and he also seems like the kind of guy who would say that and everyone in the room would be like, "Oh, shit, is he actually mad?"
Yeah.
Like, when he's the boss and the head of everything,
That's true.
it's like, it's a joke, but it's like, are we supposed to laugh?
Yeah,
or
but-
is he actually mad about this idea?
Like, if Hank said that, you'd be like, ha ha ha. And then he'd be like, no, really, we can't do this. Oh, okay.
Sideshow Kids diapers, Sam.
Well, yeah, I mean, that would be fine. I could do whatever I wanted. I do wish a bunch of diapers had fallen on him at the end. That would have been hilarious.
Instead of, what is it that falls on him?
It's orders for the dolls. It's the 2 proofs of purchases.
That's right.
Right.
Because
why would they be sending him to Muppet
dolls.
Newsman, though? Huh? He doesn't work for Pampers. He's just talking about him.
I mean, this man has had like just piles of forks fall on his head before Sam. Nothing needs to make sense in his room.
Broom, it does seem like in this one, like the broom comes to sweep him up. He's just like, hey, cut that out. Like he knows at this point, like all this stuff's going to happen. He's just like, I'm going to say words and shit's going to come. I'm going to say sweeping the nation. And he knows before he says it that the broom's going to come. He's just like, I don't have time for you today, broom. Just let me say the word sweeping once.
You can get some of these cute Pampers dolls, by the way, on eBay for a pretty reasonable price. They don't look as good 40 years later on eBay, but...
Oh, the Kermit's a little wacky, isn't he?
Yeah, I feel like his mouth maybe over 40 years just like keeps opening and not able to close. And so a lot of them are just screaming in pain. But yeah, they were going hard on the Muppet Babies promotion. And I'm sure that will only increase as the show actually starts to air.
Yeah.
And speaking of the Muppet Babies, we talked about it mostly, but this is now in our watch list where we can discuss anything else you have thoughts on with the I'm Gonna Always Love You music video.
It was
the rock video.
It sucked ass, I guess, mostly is what I think.
My only 2 notes were, wow, and the most 80s thing the Muppets have done.
Yeah. I do like when she drops the rose and it shatters on the ground. I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah.
I wish it hadn't been the Muppet Babies because that's stupid. Like, they should have let adult Piggy sing the song that baby Piggy sang if they were going to make this. I just don't think any of it makes any sense. And there's so many ideas. And it's just like, why? Why would you step back from this and be like, I'm going to show this everywhere? It's bad.
I do like imagining Jim and Frank in the studio, though, recording the baby Muppet voices.
Yeah, whenever he's talking, whenever baby Piggy is talking, I'm like, is Frank humiliated right now, or does he like this?
I just want to see the face he has to make that voice.
Yeah, just like his whole head's red, probably.
But I like that it's leaning into the ridiculousness of 80s music videos, but I also can't get a good read on the fact of how ironic it is.
I didn't even think about the fact that it could be ironic. So yeah, you might be right.
See, when they introduced the live frog and pig, I thought for sure
it's like a total Eclipse of the Heart style, like crazy.
Yeah, this is making fun of how ridiculous music videos were.
Okay, and that's why there's so many transitions, because it's
yeah, and the fact that Jim Henson shows up with his rad Geordie LaForge sunglasses, punching through a glass door and wearing flippers as he walks away. All of it just felt so ridiculous that I can't imagine they were like, yes, this is our masterpiece.
Yeah, but that's such a weird thing to bring around and show on talk shows then. That's so high concept for the audience of those things to understand,
They should have been like on MTV.
Yeah.
They should have been interviewed on MTV talking about this.
Yeah, and like made a big thing about it. Even have like Dr. Teeth on there or something, be like, yeah, I helped Kermit make this music video. It's a masterpiece.
I wouldn't mind Rolf and Kurt Loder hanging out.
Yeah, that'd be great. But yeah, I guess it was ironic. I think I can forgive them now. But I think the Muppet Babies being in it kind of threw it off. Like that made it more confusing than it needed to be.
And lastly, yeah, like Sam said earlier, we time warped forward a little bit to December 1984 because that's when Muppets Take Manhattan was coming out in Australia. And I just wanted to include this one because obviously when we watch it, if we would have watched it later this year with everything else from December 1984, it would have been a little out of place.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is opens up weirdly with the guy trying to ask Piggy about being moody and depressed for some reason.
I think
not sure where that came from.
She brought it up. She didn't bring it up. Oh, yeah, maybe not.
I don't know. Maybe they asked her how she was doing and she said a little depressed or something. But it felt immediately different from a Gene Shalit interview with the Muppets. Like, oh, you want to talk about like real shit? Okay.
This one felt weirdly like a guy, like that they were friends, like off the show. Like they knew each other and like talked on the phone every week or something like that. And he was like, hey, Piggy, you want to come on my show?
Hey, my friend Donnie. Yeah, I'll come down to Australia and hang out.
And I loved how close they were to each other. Like, I don't know if that's how he always did interviews, but they're just like 1 inch apart from each other, looking directly at each other the whole time.
They are very close. And there's also a weird music track underneath the whole thing.
Because it's a music show. So.
Well, yeah, but like they're just sitting there talking and there's this track just going on throughout the background the entire time. But he asks Piggy about her exercise routine. And she says she used to exercise, but Kermit said that he likes a voluptuous woman, so she stopped.
Do you think that's referring to her little exercise album thing that already happened?
Yeah, that had already happened at this point, so maybe they were trying to refer to that, but I don't know. There was some random questions that didn't seem connected to anything else that was happening.
Right.
Because he then asks her sort of like, who's the hardest Muppet to work with? And she says, Gonzo's chickens.
Yeah, bad answer. He doesn't like that.
Well, yeah, and it's not like, say Gonzo, say Floyd, say somebody that you could actually have some conflict with, not just these characters you never interacted with.
Say a famous person that it would be funny to say.
Yeah, Julie Andrews.
Yeah, Julie Andrews would have been pretty funny. She's a monster.
Yeah, everyone thinks she's so nice, but she is truly terrible. And he asks Piggy about her favorite rock groups, and she makes up a bunch of bands.
Yeah, not very well.
No, and she says the Shoes, who used to be called the Socks, and the Brussels Sprouts.
She did say they're farm bands, which I thought was kind of fun.
Yeah, but it's not funny, though.
No, and we know that Frank knows a lot about music because he was on that show.
We heard him on NPR or whatever.
It would have been a real thrill to hear her
BBC
be
Radio.
Like, I like Duran Duran, because she probably does.
I feel like Frank could have an actual conversation about music
Yeah.
if he wanted to, but maybe he was like, oh, I never thought about what Piggy listens to, so
Right.
I have to make something up. Well, that wraps up the hype for the Muppets Take Manhattan. Sam, you feel adequately hyped?
I'm very excited to watch this movie that I just like. I understand it less now than I did before I watched all this stuff about it.
See, I was a little afraid that they gave away too much, that they talk about it too much throughout these things, and that maybe you'd feel like you knew too much about the movie. So I'm glad to hear it's the opposite.
I can't picture how any of it hangs together. Like what it looks like, what the Muppets do in this movie.
There is the inciting incident sort of thing that kicks off most of the plot of this movie has not yet been revealed in any of these things.
Okay.
So I feel like that it will make more sense once you've seen it and see what happens plot-wise.
Uh-huh.
Because right now, I can understand that confusion of like, well, why is Piggy working with Joan Rivers at a makeup counter?
Right. How did the babies figure into it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot going on. So we will find out next week. Well, I already know. You'll find out next week.
Yeah.
But for now, it's time for our Muppet of the Week. This week's Muppet of the Week is two Muppets of the Week that I'm lumping together for very obvious reasons, I think.
Okay.
This week's Muppets of the Week are Big V and Gorgon Heap.
Big V. Who is Big V?
Yeah, you might want to Google them to find the images. They're not the most popular.
Oh, okay. Big V is the guy with the big nose that Kermit eats in Glowworm.
Mm-hmm. Now look up Gorgon Heap.
And I do know. Oh, and Gorgon Heap's the same guy.
There we go.
Okay.
So these are technically two separate characters. I don't know why that distinction is made, other than the names have changed, but we've seen Behemoth and Clean Gene be the same guy, but two different names. So there must be a good reason. I didn't see one on Muppet Wiki for why these are two different people.
Behemoth and Clean Gene have two different entries, or no?
No, yeah. Behemoth has his own page, and then it says known later as Gene. And then I know that he was credited as, I think, Clean Gene in Muppets Haunted Mansion.
And it's not even the nose, because sometimes he's got a different nose, but also sometimes Gorgon Heap has the long nose.
Yeah, so let's get into who they are, what's different, what's the same. They are both large and purple and feature yellow, bulging eyes with a black unibrow, and they're both known for swallowing anything and anyone in front of them. Big V's look was always consistent from debut till the end, with a couple little horns on the side of his head and big, sharp, spiky teeth, and his nose was usually the extremely long, spirally-looking nose because of the glowworm sketch. But he was also seen with a shorter nose at times because he was Shrinkenstein, or perhaps Shrinkenstein's monster, in the Pack-Knit commercials. Mm-hmm. And he even showed up in Sesame Street in the first season where he ate Kermit's radio and has a cameo in Hey Cinderella. And we only see Big V a couple more times in our viewings because he weirdly pops up in the Fraggle Rock animated series.
That's bizarre.
And in one of the Muppet comic books in 2010. Gorgon Heap looks pretty much exactly like Big V, but his look has changed a bit over the years. Usually he is sporting a big orange nose, different from the spiral nose, although when he did the glowworm sketch with Lenny the Lizard on The Muppet Show, he also had the big spirally nose and two horns on the side of his head and looks, I would say, indistinguishable from Big V.
Big V's a little cooler looking, I think. His eyes are a little scarier.
Big V also tends to, in a lot of appearances, seems to maybe just be a head. Like, doesn't really have much of a body going on. Whereas Gorgon Heap has been at times both a live hand and a full body puppet.
Okay.
Because we see a Gorgon Heap that looks a little different, where he has ears instead of spikes in the Sherlock Holmes UK spot where Rolf was Sherlock Holmes.
Right. Yeah.
And he keeps eating all the clues.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, apparently these are completely different characters, according to Muppet Wiki. And Gorgon Heap has his own page in the character encyclopedia. Big V does not show up in the character encyclopedia.
Huh. Which name do you like better?
I like Gorgon Heap because Big V is too mysterious.
That is it's almost like a Japanese superhero name or something. Like he'd be a giant robot, you know?
Well, and I feel like we read at some point somewhere that the V stood for vomit.
Oh.
I
I don't remember that at all.
I feel like this maybe is in the Sam and Friends book or something where they talk about Big V standing for something. And I might be misremembering that. But for some reason, those two things connect in my head.
I don't like the name Big Vomit. So I guess I like Gorgon Heap too.
Yeah, Gorgon Heap feels like it... this is a weird thing to say. Gorgon Heap feels like a name that exists already. Like, it feels like a timeless character name to me.
He could be in the Bible.
Yeah, here comes the Gorgon Heap.
Yep.
So I think Gorgon Heap is the name I prefer for many reasons.
Sure.
As far as debuts go, Big V debuted. I think Big V also sounds like it's a name that he asked you to call him.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, call me Big V. And I'm like, I don't really wanna. He's like, call me Big V.
I'm very
okay.
big. I'm so sorry to keep interrupting you. I'm so curious why they decided that Big V was the one in Fraggle Rock and not Gorgon Heap.
What a great question. Like, did Muppet Wiki decide that? Did somebody say that when they were animating it?
Is he voiced perhaps and credited as?
He's going to walk up and say, hey, I'm Big V. How's it going? Who knows? We'll find out pretty soon. And by pretty soon, I mean next year.
Yeah.
But Big V debuted in 1964 as the villain in the Glowworm sketches that we saw a bunch of times on their TV appearances in the 60s. And then Gorgon Heap debuted in the Muppet Show Sex and Violence as like a background character in 1975 and doesn't get named until one of those bizarre panel sketches that we had in the early days of the Muppet Show, where Vincent Price refers to him as one of the world's greatest eaters. And then he eats Pierre Lacousse, one of the world's greatest chefs, which was like a thing that I think at the time we were like, is this going to be like a running gag with like Gorgon Heap and the chef or all this stuff? And nope,
Never
not
seen
at all.
Never seen him again.
As far as performers go, both of them are listed as like various performers, especially Big V. The records weren't quite kept as well in the 60s, so it's probably, Frank sometimes, Jim sometimes, Jerry Jewell maybe sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Gorgon Heap, on the other hand, on the show was performed by Frank Oz, Richard Hunt, Dave Goelz, and Jerry Nelson. As again, I'm also sure there's probably some other people in there who didn't get credit. But I feel like these guys only deserve one rating. So what would you rate Big V / Gorgon Heap?
Gosh, he is just a classic guy, isn't he? He's been there since the beginning. I'm going to give him... I'm looking deeply into Big V's eyes right now. I feel like Big V deserves... I'm going to give him 2 ratings, man. I don't care what you say.
All right.
I feel like Big V deserves a 8 and Gorgon Heap deserves a 7.5 because the eyes are so much cooler on Big V.
All right. Well, to truly break the system, I'm still giving them 1 rating. They get a 5 from me.
Okay.
Middle of the road.
Even though they're OG?
Well, I think that's why we're talking about them, because there's a lot of Muppets from the Muppet Show and other things that we've never even bothered talking about, or we will someday, but don't necessarily get a lot of attention.
Right.
This is one where I feel like the look of these two characters is synonymous with early Muppets, especially Glowworm sketch, obviously a classic.
Totally.
But something about, I think it's honestly the fact that they renamed it or made it a separate character is what makes me like them less.
Yeah, I'd love some answers as to how they chose to, like the Muppet Wiki chose to make this 2 entries.
Yeah, when was the moment that they decided Big V stopped and Gorgon Heap began?
Yeah, and why does that not apply to Clean Gene?
Oh, you know what?
What?
I think I said it even earlier. So the last appearance of Big V is in a Muppet comic book from 2010. In that comic book, both Big V and Gorgon Heap are in the same comic book together.
Okay.
So they must address each other.
Right.
And so that establishes them as 2 different characters.
But this must have been a thing. Oh, yeah.
I think it was probably one of those things where you had 2 characters who were called 2 different things, and somebody who was making the comic book was like, that'd be kind of funny if they met, right?
Yeah. Right.
thus establishing,
that makes
boom,
sense.
2 characters.
2 different guys. Matt, you genius.
But I think it's much like the Behemoth Gene thing where those side characters, the people who write and perform the Muppets don't care about some of this stuff as much as we do when it comes to
Yeah.
the side characters.
Right.
So they don't mind just being like, yeah, Behemoth's name is Gene now
Yeah.
because that's my brother's name. So
Right.
that's what we're calling him. So Sam, before we get out of here, what non-Muppet things did you enjoy this week?
Oh, Matt, I finally started playing Zelda.
Ooh, you did it.
Yep, I'm doomed. It's so big and so great.
There's the sky, there's the ground, there's the underground. It just keeps going.
Underground. Yeah, and I'm just running all over Hyrule trying to beat this game as fast as I can so it doesn't destroy my life.
Yeah, I
But
listened to some
feels
podcasts
like-
about it, and some people have beat it in like 2.5 weeks.
Really?
Yeah, which is
I'm gonna
wild.
have
And that's
to
like
power
all the
through it.
shrines and everything, too.
Right. I think I'm so much better at it because it's basically like effectively the same game as the first one
Right.
continued. So I didn't find like the first island hard like I did in the first one where it's like that plateau you're on is so hard and scary. What I really like about this game is that it feels like a lot of the Zelda games, you're like a blank slate. You're like a new guy and you're walking around. Everybody's like, who the fuck are you? But in
Yeah.
this one, I love that you're walking around and everybody's like, Link. I'm so happy
It's
to
that
see you.
guy.
Yeah, because it makes me feel really good, and it makes me feel like I've lived there for
Mhm.
the last few years, and like everybody, and like we're working on projects together, and we're
It's
like,
exactly what I wanted the
stuff
end
out.
of Breath of the Wild to be.
Mhm.
When I beat Breath of the Wild and like started going back to places, I was like a little
Hey, it's
bummed
me.
that everything was just the same as it was before I actually beat the game.
right,
And I was like, oh, I wish kind of there was like a little bit of a reset. And I understand why they can't for like replayability. They want you to live in the same world. But I was kind of just like, oh, it'd be nice if the world was different after I beat the first
well,
game.
you can't even continue that game after you've actually stopped.
Right, you have to like
playing again.
reset to the save
Right.
beforehand. That's right.
Right,
But I think that they basically gave me what I wanted from the end
it's
of
like
Breath
an
of the Wild.
extended post game for Breath of the Wild.
Mhm.
Yeah, and when you jump off the island and go back to the surface, it's just like I'm home. It's like it feels so good to be back there and be like, I kind of remember this.
Well, I still haven't left the training island in the sky
really?
because I purposefully have
Okay.
not been playing this game still because I'm still trying to get through Jedi Survivor first.
Well, spoiler alert, you end up on the surface.
I assumed.
Yeah. And everybody's so happy to see you. How about you?
Yeah, not much else new, honestly. I've been finished rewatching The Bear, been
Oh, yeah.
watching F1 races, and playing Jedi Survivor.
I started watching Miss Maisel, the new season also. I just like that show. I don't know why. I've never looked up to see if people like that show or not, and I don't care to find out because it just feels like watching Gilmore Girls again. Especially this season has a very Gilmore Girls kind of twist on it that not really a spoiler because it's the first scene of the first episode, but there definitely is like a framing of it that's like intergenerational trauma in a way that feels like a refinement of the Gilmore Girls like formula.
Right.
But now that Amy Sherman Palladino's done, I'm ready for more Gilmore Girls. Come on.
I don't see that happening, but
Really?
maybe. Yeah. I think the hype has died down. I think the hype built up so much because it got put on Netflix and everyone was like, holy shit, I can watch
Yeah.
Gilmore Girls. And they're like, you want more? We'll make more.
I
And
just
I don't
wish
think
Year in
that's
the
still
Life
happening.
had been. I wish it had been better.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been helpful. But I think Miss Maisel's really good, and also, like I mentioned last time I was watching it, has a very Muppet Show subplot where she works in that strip club that I think is fun.
I have yet to watch it, even though I do hear some good things about it from time to time. And my
I mean,
wife
the
has watched it and liked it, so I should give it a shot. So before we get out of here, we told you at the beginning of this episode, but we'll tell you again, next week we are watching and discussing the film The Muppets Take Manhattan. So we need to thank our friend Tuna for making the music for this podcast and Cassie Wilson for singing our theme song. Don't forget to go to commitment.com or commitmentstuff.com to shop our new line of merch.
Hell yeah.
You can also email us at mail@commitment.com or follow this podcast on Twitter and Instagram at commitmentpod. You can also follow me on the internet at Matthew Gatos.
And I'm Sam Schultz.
And as always, keep believing.
Keep pretending.